How did you get here? Why do you do the things you do? Most people have never thought about the questions of how did I get here or why do I do the things I do? And probably fewer still know the answer. It doesn't matter if you've never thought about this, and it doesn't really matter if you know the answer to the question or not, especially if you are the sort of person that can just do things without having to know the how, what, when, where, or why of it all in order to implement and introduce potentially new and unfamiliar or even different habits and ways of being into your life. However, most people are not like that. They need to understand something before they can implement change or action that is different to what they are used to doing or have been doing up until now. Now, I'm no exception to this general rule. So let's look at how we got here and why we do the things we do right now. It starts at birth. At birth, we are taken from this nice, safe space where everything we could possibly need is provided for us. It's a place where we are dreamily oblivious to the world around us. Thought, as we know it, doesn't exist. Consciousness, as we know it, doesn't exist. At the moment of birth, all of our senses start to kick in, big time, and our programming for survival takes over, as the utopia that we have been forcibly removed from now no longer exists, nor provides for our every need, as it has done so up until this moment in time. Now our senses take over fully and rule our existence. Loud, disturbing sounds exist in ears, our skin senses being touched, feeling warmth and cold. The air dries out our skin and fills our lungs. Muscles for breathing are used for the first time. Bright light pierces our eyes as they try and make sense of what they see. We breathe in a cocktail of chemicals and translate these into smells and odours, just as our tongue and mouth instinctively take in air and mother's milk, interpreting it into taste in ways that none of us remember. We have entered a world of sight, sound, taste, touch and feeling, and smell. This is a world where the sensing body takes over. The perceiving body has just started its existence. We sense and perceive our world through our five senses. From this moment on, our most basic programming and arguably, possibly our only programming kicks in. Survival. From this moment on, we react to the world in one of two ways. We either seek out things that aid in our survival, most notably food, mother's milk, body temperature warmth through skin-to-skin contact, and quiet spaces and dim lighting. And, on the other hand, we avoid things that our senses identify as potentially harmful, things like cold, extreme heat, chemicals that our taste receptors reactively and intuitively identify as not to be taken in through the mouth, loud noises and sounds, bright lights, and uncomfortable, hard, prickly, cold surfaces against our skin and body. Our body gives us two distinct signals to let us know whether something is beneficial to us or harmful to us. These two signals are either pleasure or pain, respectively. Pleasure. Now, pleasure is a mental experience that humans and other conscious animals find enjoyable, positive, or worth seeking. It can be a part of other mental states such as happiness, entertainment, enjoyment, ecstasy, and euphoria. Pain. Now, pain is a distressing feeling, often caused by intense or damaging stimuli. Pain is an unpleasant sensory and emotional experience associated with or resembling that associated with actual or potential physical damage. Pain motivates the individual to withdraw from actual or potential damaging situations to protect oneself and to avoid similar experiences in the future. In turn, the body and mind-produced pleasure or pain induces appropriate behaviours to seek out more or less of something respectively. Both pleasure and pain exist on a continuum, so, for example, mild discomfort is still a signal of pain to our mind, and so we will move away from mild discomfort, albeit more slowly than if we experience severe pain, which would induce a more severe and quick or immediate or urgent reaction to get away from whatever we believe induced the severe pain. This is known as the stimulus-response model of behavior. All the while, our brain is now developing and taking note of everything we sense and categorizing it all into one of these two basic categories. Either things to go towards, things that give us pleasure that we perceive we need for survival, or things to get away from that give us pain that we perceive can harm us. For a short but significant amount of time after our birth, we pretty much only and solely live in this reactionary state of moving, either towards something we perceive to be beneficial, that will aid our survival, or away from something we perceive to be deleterious or harmful to our survival and existence, that induces pain. Movement in this first stage is a purely basic reactionary movement of arms and legs to push and kick things away, use of the fingers and hands to grasp things and pull them towards the body and mouth, and turning of the head to avoid unpleasant things entering the mouth, as well as opening of the mouth to intake food and spitting things out of the mouth that are deemed not to be food. We do this all through our senses and the perceiving mind. Now, perception. Perception is the organization, identification, and interpretation of sensory information in order to represent and understand the presented information or environment. All perception involves signals that go through the nervous system, which in turn result from physical or chemical stimulation of the sensory system, the eyes, the nose, tongue, body, surface, and ears. Pretty soon a third category will exist, those things that we are indifferent to, that is to say, things we neither need to avoid or go towards. As we grow, our brain develops and we move from reactions to everything without memory to reactions to everything with the start of memory. This is the first stage of learning. We now start to categorize, organize, and remember. We relate past experience outcomes to objects and situations we sense now. We remember those past outcomes and start making decisions that correlate with what we remember happened to us previously in a similar situation. Memory. Memory refers to the processes that are used to acquire, store, retain, and later retrieve information. It is also the faculty of the brain by which data or information is encoded, stored, and retrieved when needed. It is the retention of information over time for the purpose of influencing future action. Learning. Now, learning is the process of acquiring new understanding, knowledge, behaviors, skills, values, attitudes, and preferences. So we can't remember every little small detail about something. We just can't. So we generalize about our environment. This is an important and powerful tool at our disposal. However, it also has a major downside as an adult. Generalization. A generalization is a broad grouping of objects, people or things, or situations where only a few elements are identified as similar in order to try and extrapolate or infer something about that object or situation, especially with regard to whether it will harm us, help us, or be neutral towards us. Often, generalizations are unhelpful because the object or situation in front of us can be in many uniquely different ways dissimilar to the previous object or situation from our past that we are trying to relate it to in order to infer an outcome. And so the generalization would not apply in this instance. However, this is what we do. As we grow further, our fine motor skills develop, and so we now develop the capacity to move around our world and explore it ourselves. It is around this stage of development that we learn the powerful learning tool of imitation or copying. Imitation. Imitation is an advanced behavior whereby an individual observes and replicates another's behavior. Imitation is also a form of social learning. We see people, usually our primary caregivers, do repetitive actions, and we innately, automatically start to try and copy everything they do. Copying and imitation others is possibly the number one way we learn social survival skills. We also have an inbuilt set of behaviors that, from both an evolutionary perspective at the species level and at the individual level of growing out of childhood and into adulthood, has aided in our survival up until now. This set of inbuilt survival tools is known as the flight, fight, or freeze response. As a species, when we were young and not yet powerful or intelligent enough to survive, the fight, flight, or freeze response helped us to overcome and survive whatever nature threw at us, whether it was dangerous animals, weather, or other humans in desperate need of the basics for survival themselves, which were scarce back then and so were fought over mercilessly. As individuals, when we were children, when we were not yet powerful or knowledgeable or intelligent enough to survive on our own, if we encountered threats to our survival, we quickly appraised our chance of survival in each of the three scenarios of either fighting, that's trying to be stronger or outsmarting our threat, freezing, which is trying to stay still so as to be unnoticed and not be perceived as a threat yourself, and so you'll hopefully be ignored, or fleeing, which is running away to avoid and evade the threat. If we had seen someone try one of these before and be successful with it, we would usually try and copy that to see if it was effective in keeping us alive also. If we hadn't seen anything demonstrated to us before, then we would instinctively try one based on our own limited past experiences and memory. Either way, whatever we tried, regardless of whether it was necessary to do or not, we inferred that doing that action kept us alive, and so from then on, that action most likely became our number one primary method for pain avoidance, no matter what the pain was. If we have not been educated well enough in better survival tools to use as an adult, or learnt how to use better methods for survival that also aid us in thriving in our environment, then sadly, that early flight, fight, or freeze response will have become a habitual behavior for us well into our adult years, so much so that we will unconsciously use it in pretty much all our close relationships, causing disconnection when we do so. To keep this as short as possible, it doesn't take a genius to see that just as our behaviors are not actually our own, that is, they have been copied from other people, so too our thoughts, values, and beliefs about the world have been copied from other people. Those people were our major caregivers as we grew up, as children, from our birth to late teens, primarily from our parents or primary caregivers and close family group. And, well, that's pretty much how you came to be you, right here, right now, with all the behaviors, beliefs, thought patterns, superstitions, fears, hopes, dreams, goals in life, values and idiosyncrasies that up until now you have believed is you. You are not who you think you are. You are merely a collection of everything that has gone before you, everything you have taken on board from others, from their beliefs to their behaviors. Now is the time to start being you.